Hi, this is Virginia from Ohana Joe Studios, and you're here in regard to the Sixth Sense Activating Your Intuition workshop that's coming up at Ohana Joe. And tonight I'm talking to Michael, who is the co-owner, and he's going to be talking about his amazing abilities with breathwork to connect to your intuition. Intuition for me is really tapping into your heart's truth, what your heart really wants, without the mental chatter that constantly makes you think you're doing what your heart wants, but actually what your heart wants is very, very soft and doesn't use the mind. You're actually bypassing the mind to connect to your heart. So Michael's going to have some amazing techniques to connect to your intuition. And hi to Susan and Sofa and Tan UV. So hopefully Michael will connect with us. I think for any of you who've worked with Michael, he uses a lot of amazing breath work to clear trauma and to really connect to what your heart wants. And the difficult part about what your heart wants is it's very silent and it doesn't use any mind justifications. You know, often we go, but my heart says this, but my mind says money's not going to be right and things are going to be difficult. You tend to listen to your mind rather than your heart. So Michael's just about to join us. So for those, hi Michael.
Hey Virg, how are you?
I am very good. So do you want to tell people a little bit about yourself?
Well, I like to comment, I love your background.
Ah, very similar to yours.
Very similar to mine, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm quite excited. I think I've done a lot of classes now for breath work, and a lot of my journey started with, I guess a lot of us have a lot of childhood traumas, and I grew up in the UK, and I had I guess in a way a troubled sort of past growing up, and a lot of it's sort of spent in terms of the inner child, where I grew up in a house in a way where I should be trusting the people most is my parents, but in whatever way or form, they weren't quite there at the right time in a sort of childhood sense. So I grew up a lot by myself. And I think I realized that from my inner fears and I guess not feeling safe as a child has sort of transpired into my personality. So when I've had a memory of a particular situation that's given me a lot of, I guess, fear or trauma or rejection or particularly abandonment, this has played up in my adult life in different relationships, from friendships, even at work within colleagues, and of course in terms of partners. So I've had a lot of different trials and tribulations of life. I've learned a lot. I have really learned, I guess, in a way, kind of acceptance, and you're accepting a lot of the falls and then sort of learning how to pick yourself back up. So in a way, I guess I have to thank Jojo for bringing me through this spiritual journey, because before Jojo, I came from the UK. I didn't really know anything in terms of spirituality. I just knew how to constantly fight or flight, right? So the ego and my inner child was all about sort of like doing that. So you're scared, you sort of react, and as a child you would run away and you fight. And I realized along the checkpoints I became, in a way, kind of like the term I guess people call it is this people pleaser, right? So I've been in agency work before. I've had my own production house. I have always, inverted commas, served a corporate. So even though I've got my own company and I've worked obviously for corporates before, a lot of time is just serving out from whatever's going on within. So I'm really sort of in this situation where my journey has led me to this point, maybe about three years ago. I think I would say I'm quite relatively new in terms of the educational side of spirituality. But deep down and really from a very, very young age, I've always been particularly sensitive to people. So it's kind of like one of these interesting things where you sort of discover things about yourself as you go along through life, right? You don't just get one day and say, yeah, I'm spiritual, I'm gonna do all of this. So 4 years ago, I sort of went off with Jojo to a place called Rishikesh, and this was the foothills of the Himalayas. And she was going off for a teacher training. I had a job in Malaysia. It's a really big project. It was with a big broadcaster. And I was in the middle of handling different countries and different requests and all the rest of it. So I had about 4 or 5 days, I think, to sort of drop Jojo off like this transporter. So we took off to Delhi, and you land in Delhi, and of course it's a mishmash of type of drivers. There's a whole lot of noise, and I was wondering myself, wow, this is quite interesting, just landing into India for the first time. And got onto the plane, brought Jojo to Rishikesh, and the first night was New Year's Eve. And Rishikesh, being foothills Himalayas, you're in the middle of like winter. It's freezing, right? So we were spent trying to look for this place. We couldn't find it. Eventually found another place, and right outside our room was this singular Indian fella, right? Maybe, I don't know, 2021, probably one of the staff. It's New Year's Eve on like kind of the rooftop right outside our room. And he was playing this sort of like hardcore, you know, rock, not rock, sort of like techno beats at the top of his voice. And he was screaming, shouting like DJ, and he thought he was like, you know, this hot shot from Ibiza and Australia. And he thought he had 100,000 people in front of him. But in front of him, in front of these decks, and I was looking out of this is sort of where a little bit of this epiphany happened. He was just playing to 100,000 people, but there was nobody in front of him. Oh. So there's nobody on this rooftop apart from him, and nobody, like zero, because it's New Year's Eve, we're in the middle of nowhere in the foothills, right? Right. And I was looking at this guy, and I was thinking, God, I've just come out, or I'm coming into this situation of, I'm in a corporate situation. I've got a load of like emails and things going in my head. But this guy is doing exactly what he loves. He is in flow. He was actually playing out the role of what anyone would do when they're in that moment, they're in the Zen, they're in the present. And I looked at him, I was really, really like in awe of what someone looks like when they're in absolute flow. And I knew at that particular point, in Rishikesh, New Year's Eve, about to drop Jojo off at this ashram, that I want a little bit of that. I want to get to that point where I kind of don't give a shit. I really don't give, and he did not give a shit because there's nobody in front of him, but yet he was going at it, and he was playing this music as if there's 100,000 people in front of him. So what happened was, I guess I had this spiritual awakening and spiritual journey. It was from this one point, and I dropped Jojo off. And what happened was, I turned around. I was supposed to go back onto the aeroplane, right? 4 days later, and I was at the airport, and I had 2 big bags, and you know, my flights were all connecting back to Kuala Lumpur to get in for this job. And what happened was, I had this, after the half an hour of sort of waiting around, I just said, like instinctively, I kind of want to still stick around. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I just want to stick around. So I burned all of my flights, got into the taxi, and I went back to this point in Rishikesh. And there's a big bridge. It's sort of, it's a very famous bridge in Rishikesh. It goes across the river Ganga, right? So I ran across this river Ganga, 2 big bags in my hand, and really excited to go back. And I went up the ashram, and I knocked on the door for Jojo, and she literally just screamed like, "Ah, you're gonna mess up my teacher training." And she was gonna be there for at least 30, 45 days. And I remember that feeling of, gosh, I just felt a freeing moment. Whether Jojo wanted me there or not, I just knew that I had to be in Rishikesh. So what happened was, she was in ashram for 16 hours. You know, we're talking like 4 or 5 in the morning, wake up, they're breakfast at 5:36, and they're at it. You know, they're learning, they're teaching pranayama, yoga, right through till whatever time it is, 8 o'clock. So as you know, a partner, I don't get to see her. And I ended up literally not knowing which, inverted commas, where I was going to stay. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I just didn't know anything at all. And what was so beautiful is this not knowing this agenda. That's also gave me that bit of freeing, sort of freedom to just do whatever I wanted. So I'm tasting a little bit of this idea of flow. So it's the same feeling as I had a few days ago with that Indian chap playing the decks, right, to nobody. And for 16 hours of the day, I was kind of like just waking up and realizing that every single thing I'm seeing in front of me was becoming like a microscopic movie. I could see a gibbon and I could start to feel what the gibbon could feel. I could see a beggar and I could feel what the beggar could feel. Even as I talk, I'm getting these feelings. And what happened was I started to tune in to my intuition. I started to tune in on what Michael wants to do. I started to tune in on what I feel I want to do. No longer am I on an email or a appointment or a Zoom link or a WhatsApp call or whatever all the staff wanted me for that particular day. They wanted a piece of me, right? Even my parents want to know what I'm doing. Are you okay? There's 101 things that went back on in Kuala Lumpur that even for a split second, I didn't have much or any of that. And then Jojo, my partner, was in ashram, so I knew that I didn't have the responsibility of that title or that hat. So I started to become extremely sensitive. I started to become very empathic. I started to feel, I guess the word is the presence of life. I started to feel the air. My senses started to come alive. When you remove a lot of blockages and a lot of things, you start to remove a lot of the fear that holds you back. So I've always felt that everything I've ever wanted is on the opposite side of fear. And I carry, if you can imagine, this big black visual of fear right in my stomach. It's just in that solar plexus area. So I've always had a little bit of that. And this is like throughout, I would say, from childhood right through to this point in Rishikesh. So I ended up sort of staying on Rishikesh, and I had this Kelvin's joint. He'll know about this. I had this big Canon Mark II. So these are the thing which professionals use. These things which all my team started to use for shooting. And now it's landed in my hands. And I honestly, I didn't know what I was doing. I tried to set it to auto. It was all blur. I just didn't know what I was doing. But eventually I got this setting of just click and play. And I found again this essence of life. I started to take shots of random people, where it's beggars on the street. And if you look at some of my Instagram shots, this is going back, to 2-3 years ago. These are magic moments for me. These are moments that nobody can ever take away from me. These are moments that I would cherish for the rest of my life, because they were capturing the essence of life. So, it could be an animal, the gibbon, it could be the beggar, it could be Jojo, it could be, a bird. I was just loving seeing life in this sort of sense. And then I became even more, I guess the word is, in tune with my senses. I have never, ever visualized anything. I've never seen anything. I've never dreamt of anything that's come true. I've always been living with a leash. So you can imagine, like, literally with a leash. And Kelvin's here, so he's going to know. I had a lot of leashes to every team member I was responsible for. So I was carrying this huge boulder on my shoulders. At one point, I had sort of close on 50 staff members I had to look after. And these are 50 members that I really had to make sure that they were okay at the end of the month. But to do that, I had to make sure that the company was okay. But what happened was I didn't make sure that Michael was okay. I didn't make sure that actually Jojo was okay. I just didn't have that time. So it's quite emotional. So going back in this situation, but I felt a lot of love, Virginia. I felt a lot of love for beggars. I felt a lot of love for humanity. I felt a lot of love for the love from a father and his son. He was just holding him. There's a whole other story which I'll go into, but as IG Live, maybe I've talked way too much. But I've really touched a little bit of my heart I've touched a lot of my soul, and I'm still living this life. So I guess through this journey and where I sort of tasted this hardships along the way, what I consider as hardships. But when you go to Rishikesh and you see like a beggar with, she's about 2 feet and she's like an adult, and she's got no legs and all the rest of it. She had the most beautiful smile, you know, and you couldn't help. She was on the bridge, and you just couldn't help but wonder, whatever you've got going on in your life, it means dilly squid. You're seeing somebody out there that has real hardship. So whatever hardships I went through, I guess the sensitivity of me sort of started to dissolve a lot of stuff that was attachments to financial strain, attachments to trying to be, you know, a good husband, for example, a good boss to the team members. I just couldn't. I couldn't tell you how beautiful freedom tastes. And one of the most beautiful souls has just joined me, and I've had a lot of love for this girl. Her name's Adbin. She's an Iranian. I won't digress, but hi, Adbin.
Yeah, she's
But
my friend as well. So hi,
yes,
Adbin. What a
it's
special
both our
soul.
friends. So Adbin would know. Anyone that's been through a relationship breakdown would know. Anyone that's gone through turmoil would know. I've been through a lot as a child, but it almost meant nothing to a certain extent when you see what you see in Rishikesh. So it brought me to this universe of showing me how much I have in my life. And I had so much to be grateful for. So every day was a new day. But what happened was I was with, this is another trip, but I was with basically Jojo's sister, who again wasn't so spiritual in this sense. And we sort of happened to stumble across this little sign that just said something along the lines of, you know, intuition or emotional healing, and, you know, a bit of breath. And I thought, I've done 1 or 2 classes of, you know, alternate nostril breathing. You sort of inhale real slow, you exhale real slow, and that was all good. It's great. It calmed me down, energized me up. But when I went into this particular session, and this is like at 6 p.m. in Rishikesh, it's kind of like in Nepal, there is not much electricity. They save on lights, and you're kind of going this very cold, sort of like stone type of room, right? It's sort of hidden away in the middle of some street. And you have no lights at all, and you've got this little candlelight. And it's a journey which I will never forget, because it's kind of like, in a way, my first breathwork journey. So I sat there with a guy called Pankaj, and he was actually the student of a student from the master teacher. It was like 6 p.m. class. It's like a non-peak kind of class, right? And I sat there. I think Jojo joined this particular session. She did join the session, and it's freezing with all our, you know, the blankets and stuff. And he started to get us to do basically circular breathing. So it's inhaling, exhaling, exhaling. And I was done and dusted in about 180 seconds. I just like, when are you gonna stop? I can't do it. And I'm telling him I can't do it. And I was, my corporate self was coming through. I was complaining, right? I was complaining while I'm doing this class. And I said, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not doing it anymore. He had so much patience with me, because he was like the student of a student. So he had no ego. He just said, just try. And he was with me, had his arms on my shoulders, and he was just sort of prolonging it. So what happened was, after maybe the first 10 minutes, which seemed like a bit of torture, my lungs was not used to this. It started to autopilot. And when it started to autopilot, I started to sort of move from, I guess, the body into this sort of emotional, altered states of consciousness. I started to not even think about anything. I couldn't even think about the present. It was just keep breathing. And then this amazing magical thing happened after about 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Obviously, your body's full of oxygen, it's full of energy. But what happened then basically was, my body became this, it felt like this out of body experience, in body experience of nothingness. I sort of became nothing. So I couldn't feel, I guess the word is the trauma. I couldn't feel the fear. I couldn't feel, you know, you don't even feel happiness, because you don't even have that space to feel happiness. You're literally feeling this space of absolute nothingness. And through this nothingness, after this particular session sort of finished and happened and over, it felt this little bliss. And even as I talk, I'm getting this similar sort of energy and energetic charge. It cleared so many blockages and fears, even temporarily, because we have a default, which goes back to this vibration of, a lower vibration of fear, of guilt and shame. And I couldn't tell you, Virginia, as to how powerful I felt in love with that feeling of nothingness, absolutely zero attachments. And you start to become, even temporarily, the state of being where you feel so empowered, you feel so amazing, so beautiful, so loved. It's like, holy shit, this is what life is about. I'm sorry I'm a Hanager and swearing. A lot of students might be on this and they've not heard me swear, but this is the Michael in me, and it's unapologetic. It shouldn't be. I shouldn't be apologizing for how I feel. I feel in love with life. So that was my first taste of what potentially breathwork was, which was very different to, in a way, what breathing exercise was, techniques, and I love all of that. So I started to continue this journey in Rishikesh to even look for more breathwork. And I looked for this particular 2 words, and I knew that I needed to push my body that much more, because I feel, Kelvin's saying I swear a lot, but I don't really. But you lost my thought, Kel. So he's disturbed my train of thoughts again.
You were looking for other breathwork classes.
Right. So I was looking for a lot more breathwork class, because I could feel that this was something that, through my journey as a child growing up, I was always, I could pretend to be strong, right? I could pretend to put this mask on of knowing what I'm doing. There's many things I've done that people thought I knew, but I had no idea. I've never, I didn't know how to do a production, TV production. I ended up doing the first one, and they thought it was done for many years. I've done so many things I've just never done before. And I just felt that this breath work has given me this idea or ideation that I can kind of do anything if I can sort of touch this taste of being in flow and being present with life. Otherwise, I'm just going to be leading life with, I guess, coming from fear, coming from weakness. So I fell in love. I'm so sorry, Virginia. It's been 20 odd minutes and I haven't even let you say more than how are you doing, Michael. I'm going to stop here because I feel that I need to pass that ball back to you, Virginia.
Well, I mean, Michael is a facilitator on the Sixth Sense, a journey activating your intuition workshop, which is coming up in May, on May 8th and 9th for your segment. And then Jojo, Savvy, and I are going to be taking the 16th and 17th of May. So what I think would be fascinating for me, especially, because I think we're all really in tune with what you're saying about breath work. But someone's got a normal life and then they experience breath work. How can the breath work, which is getting into that nothingness, help my everyday life? For example, you had all those pressures, you had so much that you had to look after that was stressing you. How did this window into breathworks help you change your life or take you in a direction where you're happier?
I've got to thank all the trauma I've experienced, all the lessons I've experienced, all the different pains I've experienced, from relationship pains to financial situation strains, company strains, because I wouldn't have been ready for this journey 3 years ago. I wouldn't have been ready for this journey, I guess even 2 years ago. Quite frankly, I was still wrapped up in this ideation that I needed to serve, I guess, the scarcity of not having enough. So you don't have enough love, you don't have enough money, and when you don't have enough, what happens is you end up wanting or needing more. And when you have the word need, I need this because I don't have it yet. See, that's sort of a pattern. I need more money because I don't have it yet. I need more love because I don't have enough love. So need allows you to, I guess, be a litmus test to know that what you don't have. But once you actually have a lot more than you need, it's like you become very, very abundant because you're allowing yourself to give something away unconditionally and not having anything come back. And even money, there is an energy return. What you give comes back to you. And I never quite saw that, I guess, without this understanding of how to get into my intuition, into this sixth sense. I had no idea I was empath. I didn't know what the word meant until I met my dad like 2 or 3 years ago. And he was in front of me telling me the same story. I'm talking in Rishikesh, but he's talking about it back in the UK, seeing some beggar, and he starts to cry in front of me. I'm like, God, I just did the same thing in Rishikesh, like thousands of miles away. It's like, why are you crying, Dad? Why are you crying? And he couldn't stop crying when he's talking about something. And I said, I'm not sure, Dad, but I'm going to just check out the Google internet. And I looked it up, and I looked at the word empath. And wow, of the 16 points of being empathic, he was 15 out of 16. And I looked at it myself, and I was 16 out of 16. So I thought, okay, so what does it mean to be an empath? You know, I couldn't understand it because as a teenager growing up, I had a lot of different friends that were going to, let's say, the pub, right? But I knew myself, I couldn't go in the pub by myself without them because they're like this group of lads that I'm going to go into the pub with, and they felt this sort of strength, right? But I knew even in the pub or even in public places, I was getting, and I'm supposed to, you know, be all happy and smiley and all the rest of it, but I was becoming more and more introverted in a very public place, and I couldn't understand it until recently with this word empath. So what it sort of means is your body becomes, you take on a lot of other people's emotions. So I've gone on beyond to study like Reiki. So I'm a Reiki Master. I went quite deep into Pranic Healing, which I found very functionally really, really strong for me because understanding about energy, understanding about auras, understanding about, wow, something you cannot see, but is there. And I then understood that with my energy levels, I end up taking on a lot of other people's emotions. So I do classes in Breathworks, really, and critically speaking, it's to allow people to de-armor. It's allow people to know that when you go into this traumatic situation that you've been into, and it could be at work, it could be something from childhood, and you've not yet addressed it, you've not yet embraced it, and that pain that you have, the body has this default of creating this armor. So if you have this armor that doesn't allow your body, because your ego, it's trained to protect this bit of pain, this wound. So if you have your armor, which is built over time, reaches really, really thick, you can't touch this bit of pain. So whatever triggers you off in this bit of pain, you are going to be acting out in this defense mode, right? So I sort of realized as an empath, being in Ohanajo and seeing a lot of the students come through, I can sort of feel and sense empaths takes on a lot of information that we simply are not able to process. We have a processor, right? We have this big frontal cortex, which carries a lot of information. One of the biggest senses we have is our eyes. So whatever we see, we process in. The next one is our ears, right? Then you have the senses of obviously the taste, the smells, and the other one is the senses of the feel. Once you move past this, you go into what's called the superconscious mind. And if you go past the conscious and the subconscious, right, you go into this superconscious mind. So the superconscious is when you reach this nothingness. And when you reach this nothingness, the superconscious mind starts to give you the answers to every single word you've uttered from the moment you're baby. You can actually recall every single memory because you have nothing blocking you from anything or everything. So we work sort of like with 2% or 3%, which is this conscious, and it's usually externals. Then some of the subconscious, right, goes into things like fears and memories. It remembers things that you're scared. It remembers memories of pleasure. It remembers experiences. But the superconscious, this is where, and I'm not saying that this workshop and this module is going to get you to that superconscious. You got to work for the superconscious. This is what people sometimes call even like, not the same, but people like to go into this ascension mode, into this different dimensions. They want to break free from all the things that they're attached to these fears. But the superconscious is a really, really special place that happens with breath. And I explain like with the breath work, how it works. It's kind of a 3-part formula for a transformational access to this superconscious mind. And it's really three key things. One is awareness. Two is surrender. And then the third one is the breath work to allow you to get to this Pandora box. I call it the Pandora box, which stores a lot of different emotions. If you cannot reach these emotions, you basically are going to be in a default of constant pain, because you're either going to be numbing it. So numbing means you're going to be running away from it. You're going to be putting your mask on, and you're going to be charading as a people pleaser. You're going to be charading in trying to do things, nonsense things that just really doesn't matter, but you carry on doing it. You're going to start to look in the mirror and start to perfect yourself. Everything about your body, you're going to start to judge. You're going to judge others. So all of these things that you're going to constantly do, it's looking at that external, and it's running away from the problem. So what happens is when you take off this mask and you literally become naked, and I'm not talking physically naked, you become naked with you and your Pandora box, with you and your heart, you and your soul. So what happens? The truth starts to rise. And when the truth starts to rise, you understand, in a way, the purpose you are on this earth. You understand what's important to you, what's really important to you. We can count all the money we want in the bank, but we can't count time. We don't know how much time we're going to have left. So when you sort of remove the shards of attachments, and particularly all these things you thought was your game plan, your goals of getting that bigger house. Obviously, I'm a bit older, so I may not have said this thing 3 years ago, or even 10 years ago, or 15 years. At 20 years old, you are looking ambition-wise. It's great to have goals and drive. You want that. You want to have accomplishments. But what I'm talking about is anybody can access this, even a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old. If they can reach this point of going, and it's not about what makes you happy, because happiness is a state. It's a temporary state. You sort of go up and you spike and you come back down again. It's trying to create this understanding of what actually you feel rather than what you think. And if you can feel a certain sense of fulfillment, contentment with whatever's going on in your life, even just being at that studio with that teacher in front of you, that's really important. But if you can't feel and you're constantly thinking, you're processing. So the understanding of breathwork and surrendering, I have different modalities, which I've sort of combined into a couple of things. I like to go into what's called rebirth breathwork. And this was sort of developed by sort of a scientist, doctor called Leonard Orr, and he experimented with this. And what he did basically was he wanted to get to that state where you almost go to that feeling and imagination and understanding of when you're in the womb. Because when you're in the womb, it's supposed to be very, very safe without any experiences. It's back to like blank canvas. And if you can get back to that stage, to a certain extent, you can almost go forward and start to erase. That's a rhetorical word, by the way, just to erase a little bit of these traumas and stresses. So I started to study quite deep. It's taken me quite a while to get certified, but I've become really entrenched in understanding breath work in a rebirth sense. I've fallen in love with a Bulgarian chap called Gitan. And Gitan uses not just breath work, he uses body armor. So you go into the body and he uses his hands, you yourself can go in and you start to get fluid, because when you're very stressed and when you have a lot of fear, you start to clench and contract. So when you clench and contract, you hold on to that bit of fear. You don't release it. So we have a lot of fear in our jaws. So if you feel your jaws just here, and if you press this, Virginia, if you can feel a little bit of stiffness and pain, that's the thing you are suppressing. What are you suppressing? Another part is just under your sort of shoulder blades, right here in your chest. So Gitan goes in and uses body movement to release and de-armor. So breathwork allows you to de-armor. It allows you to rewire. And it's really, really powerful in this sort of formula for transformation.
Wow. Michael, in the Activating Your Intuition workshop coming up in May, what would you recommend to someone who has a busy life? What is the benefit of living with your intuition, through, listening to your intuition rather than your mind?
There's so many things that you have when you ask me that question. I don't even know where to start, but Ideally, it's like this. If you're not aware, you can't do anything about it. That means you're ignorant. And we have what's called a default. So we call it vibration. So one of the highest vibration is this level of sort of this enlightenment, this bliss, this unconditional love. They talk about this a lot. It means that you're vibrating at a very, very high level. No matter what anyone says to you, you're not going to be affected. You're just going to continue to give. Not many of us can get to that sort of state, but a lot of us, through the inner child, through teenage wise, and of course through experiences of pain and hurt, right? We vibrate a lot from the lower regions. Not all of us, but if you've had something like, if you've been bullied, you can have a lot of shame about feeling with self-confidence. If you have had a breakup, you could feel, I'm not good enough. What is it about me that's so undesirable? And that's all linked usually to abandonment. And abandonment is usually linked to the inner child not feeling safe, right? So you have a lot of things going on that you are not going to be aware of because you're going to be controlled by these emotional low vibrations. Your default is guilt, it's shame, it's I'm not good enough, it's low confidence. So you have these little spikes where you go up, but you're going to come back down to that default. So what breathwork does is this. It allows you to surrender to this process where breathwork is not 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It's about, the magic mark is 45 minutes. Some go for an hour, some goes for 2 hours. And they're basically peaks and waves to allow your body to, I'm not sure what that thing's called, but when you do that, there's this sort of this rubber band, right?
Harmonic wave, or yeah.
Right. So it's not a straight line. Your body is not straight either. So the waves we take you through is through a conscious situation, which allows you to be very, very conscious of your breath. And you start to connect with your heart and every single organ in your body, right? You're starting to defocus out of the externals and you're starting to focus on the internals. Meditation is not just sitting there for an hour and hoping for the best if your mind's on an email. It's basically, it's like Nike, right? It's kind of like, it's all Adidas. It's like you're all in. You're all in to whatever you're doing that particular moment. So if I'm all in doing gardening, then that's meditation. If I'm all in cooking, if I'm all in painting, creating any sort of art, this is expressing my all in what makes me mindful. And a lot of meditation comes from that. There's sort of a space of that nothingness and being present. So I felt that breath work allows the person to go through this journey like going to a gym. You can't go to a gym and expect to get like really defined and sort of, sculpted in a week. If you were not emotionally available for your partner, that means you're just saying yes, 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 and you're just going through the motions during the day. I've done that, so I know how that feels, because your mind is actually on work. Your mind is actually on everything else apart from your partner. That's the person that you're becoming into this. Males, females that've been hurt by not being able to get over, I guess, a particular trauma from their childhood. It could be abuse. It could be a big relationship breakup. Those are the people that should be coming for this, because this is a journey that you're going to be going on, and you're going to be learning to do this journey at home. This is not just like, I've done so many classes as well, which is very experiential. I'm going to be going through the process of a lot of the body of knowledge that you're going to need to know. So even if you're a teacher, even if you're a yoga teacher, 200 hours, 500, you've learned a lot of different techniques. This is more than just a technique. This is about life. Breath work is like the main energy factor for me, which is the tool for transformation. I'll say the formula again, which I love as a formula because it's so easy to remember. It's about being aware of your situation. Now, to be aware of that problem or that trauma, you kind of need to be there. You need to feel that pain. You need to go in, right? Once you're aware and become like this observer, you need to surrender. So when you surrender to this inverted commas problem, then you're able to deal with it. And what breathwork does, it creates this transformation because it brings the body from very acidic, very stressed, and it dissolves it into becoming very alkaline. So the body then emits out, after about 15, 20 minutes, a lot of different things like dopamine. So people don't need to do the whole chemical LSD, the mushrooms. This is a natural high. And when you go into the state of surrender, your emotion starts to come. and it starts to come out through breath. And I use sound as well as body movement. So the sound is something where you would purge a sound that potentially could be very resonant to something called like kind of like a primal scream. If you were really scared, Virginia, and someone asked you to shout, you could shout, ah, right? Because there's maybe like 4 or 5 people in the room. But if someone scared you from the behind, that means you're not conscious of who's in front of you. You're not conscious of how loud you're going to be. That scream is going to be way, way louder. So we try to go down and go deeper into understanding what's called that sound that you've been holding on to that's linked to this Pandora box. That's this attic of secrets. And these secrets are all your fears. And these are the secrets that you have been holding on to because you don't want anybody to see you without that mask. Mm-hmm. And if you can release emotionally these secrets or these emotions, just one secret a day, that's 365 secrets in a year. But actually, how many secrets do you actually hold on to? So we are going to go very much into the breath work, and we're going to be working through getting out of the head, going to the heart, and really into the solar plexus, which some would have as the stomach. So that's where we carry a lot of fear. And if you keep breaking this, again, this is a module, this is a workshop. You're not going to expect for you to be from zero to hero. You're not going to treat this as an event to heal yourself. Healing is like a journey. Allowing yourself to be on this journey, allowing yourself to travel on this journey, that's going to be the beauty of coming to this class, because it could ignite a lot in you to say, I want to do this, not for my partner, not for my parents, not even for me to get that better job, not even for me to get slim or whatever. I want to do this for me. And once you find that essence, that workshop that you go to could be that kickstart to transform your life. If you can shift by 1 degree, that 1 degree goes to 2 degrees, eventually that's a different path. You're on a different path. I am on a different path now. I don't know if Kelvin's still in or he's sort of knocked out, but Kelvin was one of my first staff in a company I ran called Kyanite. And this is about almost 13, 15 years ago. And it was a production house. And a lot of that was a different path for me. I was hanging around with a lot of different crew members. We were traveling around the world. We were moving with a lot of different celebrities. And it was sort of like, I mean, I look back on it, it's an amazing, amazing time. But every single thing which I've just said is external from me. I couldn't tell you honestly how fulfilled I was inside. Even after a job you see on the TV, I just couldn't tell you, like, I feel good. If I have a class and I see someone come up to me and go, and just ask me a question, how could I do this back at home? Or maybe they saw some visions, or maybe they tapped in and they realized that they need to say sorry to that ex-boyfriend that they've maybe have cheated on, or the person cheated on him, and they don't care what the problem was. That's just the story. But they want to say sorry to that person. They are forgiving themselves. They're connecting with themselves. That makes me feel alive, Virginia. I'm not going to look at numbers in front of you. Every single person is a soul that, in a way, that has been in a way touched to go into a slightly different path. So yeah, I'm happy to share the knowledge. It's 2-day module. It's going to be the 8th and 9th of May, 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. I'm going to have a co-facilitator, which is Narain. Now, Narain to all these amazing sixth sense, we're talking about Akashic records, which is going back into your library of memories, past life connections. He's going to be talking about how to build like a psychic shield. He's going to be doing one-on-one readings with everybody. I would be going through a body of knowledge that a teacher could have, an individual could have, that's going to be allowing them to use breath work for the intuition, to clear blockages in a child, and really to understand something called psycho-emotional health. How do you allow yourself to get to that point where you can just let go? And when you can accept what's inside you and truly love that means you can truly love your flaws. You're going to make a big difference in your life to allow yourself to propel forward and be in that sort of present moment. So I'm really, really looking forward to this, these two modules. And I can't tell you how, in my case, how much information in terms of experiential, in terms of transformational and tools that I've learned. And I'm going to share it. I've been wanting to do this for the best part of 2 years, and I just haven't had a chance. I've used MCO really well to bring this body of knowledge into a really powerful module. And after these 4 modules, we're going to go on and do even more modules, because I feel like I'm right now all in terms of this path of really getting everybody to be empowered to connect to their intuition. And we all have intuition. It's just clearing those blocks away for you to listen to your sixth sense, to listen to your gut intuition.
On Sunday, the 2nd of May at 2 p.m., you can actually meet Michael and meet all of the facilitators for this wonderful workshop, the Sixth Sense Activating Your Intuition workshop. So it is 4 modules, but you can actually just buy one, or you can buy 2, or you can buy all 4, and there are discounts for if you take on 3 and 4. So Michael, do you want to share how much one module is?
Bit shy now, Virginia.
Well, I think everyone's going to be excited to experience breathworks after hearing you, and of course, Namen, it's going to be amazing.
There's 5 facilities. You're going to get much more than just an experience. You're going to get a whole body of knowledge that you can bring with you for life. It's like going back to school again. I had this sort of like this thought of like, imagine if I was a kid and I was going to go and this real school of magic, right? So I thought of Hogwarts, right? Harry Potter. I thought if I was 11 or whatever it could be, you know, I don't want to do the whole grammar school thing. I want to go to Hogwarts, right? And who wants to learn French and German and all this kind of stuff? So the magic of the situation at this age I am now is I'm recreating these modules. I mean, it's not a school or anything like that, but I really think it's so valuable that you are able to feel yourself. You're able to feel the truth. You're able to feel the intuition. So if you are asking yourself, how do I get guidance on work? How do I get guidance on knowing what to say to my partner? Really it's all within you. It's just clearing those blocks away and tapping to intuition to go, my body is not lying. This is the truth. And Jojo says this a lot. She's following her heart. And when you can accept the heart is 5,000 times magnetically stronger than the brain, but intuition is actually even stronger than the heart. So imagine how powerful it is to tap into all the different alignments and really zoom into this area of your life that you can use for every single thing. You don't need to go to Google. I've always believed that people like your psychics, the tarot card healers, oracle card healers, the channelers, amazing extensions of understanding where to point you in the right direction. But really what they're doing is giving you sometimes questions where you're answering yourself. And you kind of know when you answer it, am I just faking it to the healer just because I really want that answer, or are you telling the truth? So facilitators and healers are able to ask the right questions where your intuition knows everything. So they're just temporarily just moving those blocks away, and you have everything within you. So I'm hoping to get, I guess the word is like-minded individuals that are really wanting to do this really for themselves.
I must admit, I'm excited for people who go on the full journey, do the full 4 days, because, you know, I think that intuition, to actually tap into it, you almost have to remove the fear. You have to connect with the trauma in order to feel it, in order to then clear, so you can actually tap into that intuition, because we're often fogged by our fears, which are our logic mind. And if they can actually clear the trauma through breath work, then when they come to, you know, Jojo, mine, and Savvy's section, which is the weekend after yours, they are going to be flying once they do the because I'm going to be taking them through connecting to their soul's purpose and their creativity. And if they've already done the work with you of connecting easily and clearing those blocks, they're going to be flying by the end of the 4 days. So Yeah, I
Yeah.
hope that they do all
The
four,
mo
but again, you don't have to.
yeah.
Mm.
The modules from day 1 to day 4, all 4 modules, there's 5 facilitators here. Someone's asked me this the whole time. If I've only got one, which one would I choose? And I say,
Yeah.
I said the same thing. If it was me, I can't choose because they're so different. Every single
Mm-hmm.
one is addressing another aspect of yourself, of your
Mm-hmm.
intuition. So this is not a situation that you would want to choose. Even if you miss 1 or 2 now, you can, or even if you can only afford 1, we have installment plans. So do talk to us. We have discounts as well. If you buy 3 modules, it's 25% discount. If you buy 4 modules, it's 30% discount. So don't worry about that too much. So sorry, the studio phone's going. I just need to just switch it off 1 second.
Okay, then I will fill in. So, as I'm saying, this is a 4-day workshop called The Sixth Sense Activating Your Intuition Workshop. And I'll be facilitating on the last 2 days, which is the 16th and 17th of May. Is that correct? And it'll go from 2 p.m. till 10 p.m. on all 4 days. So Michael's is the 8th and 9th, and mine is the 16th and 17th, 2 p.m. till 10 p.m. So you will also be getting a dinner as well as an amazing experience of connecting to your intuition. And for my part, I will be connecting using intuition to find your life purpose, to connect with how to energetically attract money, and also clearing your blocks so that you can really connect to intuition, even under the pressure of performance. So over to you, Michael, and then we'll probably wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, we should have wrapped up half an hour ago. So I'm so sorry, Virginia and everyone else, for my talk. I've been too engrossed in, I guess, sharing. I'm really excited. I'm going to be honest with you. This is not just it's not just a workshop. This is a new path for me. It's a new path for Virginia, Noreen, Jojo. It's a new path for Savvy. This is Ohanajo doing exactly what we're doing. We have served so many different types of classes, but we've really coming down to this crux of, I want to get into more where we can see such a change from people. So if you can actually tap into that intuition, even for a second, wow, imagine doing this every single day for almost everything in your life. That's a really powerful tool to have. So I'm really excited to see the journey. And you're not going to come to the module and obviously everything's going to change instantly, but it's tools for you to go away to allow you to practice, allow you to create and apply the tools and techniques. And like I said, being aware of getting into this situation of intuition.
I know, I mean, I was also in the corporate world, and not feeling, just ignoring and numbing your body is almost part of your survival instinct when you're under that much stress and pressure. And to learn to feel, I never quite understood why, except when you learn to feel, your body can literally tell you intuition. It is your body, it's feelings that guide you with intuition. It's not the mind. It actually is your body. Your body can be your guide. But because these days we don't feel, we're so stressed out, we're just living from our minds. I think for anyone who's in that situation, just going on this path of just getting into your body and feeling is one step towards using intuition. Yeah.
Very well said, Virg. Very well said. Well,
So,
I am so happy to have shared an extra half hour with you. So
my
it's been
pleasure.
amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And don't forget, on the 2nd of May at 2 p.m. here at Ohanajo Cafe, you'll be able to meet all the facilitators and ask them any questions. And that is completely free. So I hope to see you there. Thank you so much, Michael. And again, this is the Sixth Sense Activating Your Intuition workshop in May, on May 8th and 9th and 16th and 17th. Hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Virginia.
Thanks, Michael.